sending you a video to keep you updated on the Meeple situation. So basically today I was able to get over to Jack's and get them actually printed. So here is a picture of the wood after it's cut out. We did use the thicker wood today, but obviously there are some issues, several issues that I had to address. And one of those issues was I packed the Meeple too tightly together and there was some burn through on the edges. And obviously there's some other issues as well. So let's just get into it. So here is the evolution of the Meeple. We've got basically the plastic Meeple and how they look on the wood. And then we've got the Gen 2 Meeple and how they fit and stack and the bases and stuff. But then we move into the Gen 3 Meeple, which are now wood-based, and they look pretty good. With the exception of the laborers, because the tools, I just don't think we can get away with that. If you take a look at the AI file here and then the SVG file, you can see that what you were complaining about was the handle wasn't quite lined up for the burn and stuff like that. The burner that we cut on today on the Glowforge wouldn't even print the SI because the little tip of it has that little green tip, and then the handle has green and stuff. And it was just basically saying it was too close to the other thing that's a cutout, and it just wouldn't do it at the scale that we were doing it. So, and then when you take a look at the actual printouts of the tools, they don't look all that great, especially the pickaxe, which would have a similar handle, and the axe there, they're just not scaled right for this. So I definitely think we need to go back to a Meeple-shaped person with the symbol on their chest. So speaking of symbols, one of the other issues you had this morning was the fact that the numbers weren't centered, but that ended up being non-relevant at all because I have to figure out how to make the SVG files more font appropriate. We had a similar issue with the guys in Wisconsin with my output files, and they basically corrected it for us with their fonts. And now I'm trying to use this font. The numbers showed up in your system, but they weren't correct. And I was there, we downloaded the correct fonts, we installed them into the system, and they still didn't show up properly. So when we imported into the Glowforge, I had to basically use a Glowforge font to replace all the fonts. And I found one that was kind of Western-y and fun. And I took a good 30, 40 minutes to put all the numbers back in, and then I was able to realign them a little better. But then in the end, they didn't print either. And I don't know, if you take a look at this video here, I don't know whether it was the tape that we put over the top, which is a burn diffuser, I guess. It's a protective thing that it helps you so you don't have as much scorch on the top of the wood. It didn't seem to work too well. If you take a look at the pile of Meeple, you'll see that there's a hell of a lot of scorch going on here. So there's a couple pieces that have tape on them right there that you can see that haven't been peeled off yet, but there's a lot of scorch on that stuff. And none of the numbers burned, even though we were using the actual Glowforge software and the actual Glowforge numbers. So that was kind of a little bit of a disaster. So I have to figure out how to make the fonts work perfectly with the Glowforge burner. But as you can see, I think we're moving in the right direction. If we take a look at the plastic versus the Gen 2 stand-ups with the base and then go to the new ones, I think they look pretty good. And like you said this morning, you said that the money bag was too fat. And actually what's funny is the money bags is the only one that seems like perfectly appropriate. If you take a look at the money bag next to a regular Meeple, it looks fantastic. And these are thicker than regular Meeple. So money bags right on the money, buddy. And then I think the rest of them need to be a little tweaked out. As you can see, the bottles are just too thin. It's going to be a little hard to read the numbers. You can see that the three of them on the stack here, you've got a lot of space. Then you take a look at the hats, and the hats do fit three on a pile. And the hats are fine. They feel good in your hands. The money bag feels fantastic in your hands. The boot feels okay in your hands. The bottle feels really thin. So I think we need to modify the bottle for sure, maybe come up with a different shape. The hats, they're okay. I don't hate them, but obviously we're looking at a lot of char on all these pieces. So and if you take a look at the tools themselves, they're just too thin, and there's some burn through on the pickaxe edges, and just doesn't quite work right. So I definitely want to abandon those tools. And that was the big thing that you said this morning, that the fill didn't line up with the tool. Doesn't matter, because we have to abandon that direction anyways. So I'm glad I took the time to just get her done as a prototype and actually see and feel how they feel and touch them and see how long it took. Good news is that we burned a whole set in 15 minutes. So using that calculation, we're looking at 200 sets. Okay, so 200 times 15 minutes divided by 60 gives you 50 hours of burn time. And Jack would like to get paid $25 an hour. 50 hours of burn time times $25 an hour is $1,250. And that means that each piece is going to come out to, reverse that, 1,250 divided by 7,600 is about 16.5 cents per piece. And I told him we'd love to get that down to 10 cents a piece, but he said that was too little. So we'll have to talk about that. But basically, the 15-minute per set is a good number to work on. If we add more, the numbers didn't burn this time, so it might take a little bit longer. So we'll have to recalculate that once we get the numbers in. I did have it score, so maybe it scored onto the tape and didn't score onto the wood, the protective peeling layer there. But I'm not sure exactly what happened, why it didn't print with the actual Glowforge things. But anyways, here's a couple more shots of the meeple next to a standard large meeple and small meeple from Carcassonne. And you can see that the scale was pretty good, not dead on. I would like to actually make it a little bit bigger. I'd like to make the boot a little bigger. You can see how small it is the footprint is small compared to the meeple. I'd like to make the boots bigger. I'd like to make the hats bigger, and we definitely need to make the bottles bigger. The money bag seems like it's an appropriate size. So that's that. We could make it slightly bigger, but you can see that 3 of them fitting on a tile fit pretty nicely, and I think there's a lot of room in that money bag to burn the numbers. So that's the trick. We got to figure out how to have a little less scorch. He did have to burn on max power at a double pass to get through the entire layer, but they do stand up nicely. So again, bottom line is we're chucking the tools. We're going to go back to a meeple-shaped tool, maybe a larger size meeple. I think we should scale up the boots and stuff like that, and I got to figure out what's going on with the fonts, but I should be able to do that this week. And we need to think about like the sheriff and the bandit, maybe rethink those pieces. The little round nubbins and the edges on the star, they add a lot to the curvature and the cut time, but they don't add a lot to the star aesthetically. So it's kind of a waste to put those little round nubbins on the end. So I think we should just have a simple star shape without the rounded. That'll save some burn time, some cut time. So that's hopefully you can see all the pieces in their glory here, and I've taken some extra shots of how they fit on the tiles and stuff like that. And again, my thoughts are get rid of the tools, go back to a meeple with a tool on the chest, maybe even do the sheriff and the bandit with a tool with it, like the laborers just have a symbol on their chest like the original meeples. And then I do think we're moving in the right direction with going with wood. I do think we're moving in the right direction with these multiple shapes. I kind of like the whole concept. Obviously, we need to rescale it and work on getting the font to work correctly. And that is my issue. But other than that, the file loaded right into the Glowforge software, and did all the cuts, and it even did the fill on the tools, but obviously we are abandoning those tools and those fills. Another issue was I did pack them a little tight, so the laser was alerting us to potential fire hazards with the packing. So I will have to pack them a little looser, which means a little more wood waste, and a little bit more size means a little more wood waste too. So I'm not sure exactly how many sets we're going to be able to get on a single board, but it should still be cost effective as far as material is concerned. So there's your update on Meeples. If you have any questions, give me a shout back and we'll take it from there. Thanks.